Hello everyone, this is PK Entertainment and we're back again, and here now we have another video for you, and we're going to talk about Masters of the Universe Revelation Part 2, whether it can convince fans anymore that this is indeed a viable He-Man show and overcome a lot of the outrage and perceived controversy that was set from Part 1. Now, I'm pretty much sure you all know what this is, but just in case there's anybody watching who doesn't know, Masters of the Universe Revelation is the Netflix adaptation or stroke spiritual sequel, however they want to call it, to the classic He-Man 80s animated series. Now, the first 5 episodes of the show, Part 1, if you want to call it, debuted earlier this year as very much more of a continuation of the original story, and you can catch my overall reviews of those first 5 episodes, and I will leave the links within the description, and you of course can catch with all of Part 1 on Netflix as well. Now, of course, Part 1 caused massive outrage amongst fans who are primarily concerned with the all seemingly very much false marketing, trying to promote the show as a He-Man show when basically it was Teela who was the lead character. And we had various comments made by showrunner Kevin Smith responding to certain YouTubers online, and that of course provoked a lot of reaction as well. Now, to be honest, you can debate about the whole narrative surrounding Part 1 for another hour, but I'm not going to do that. I'm instead going to concentrate more on Part 2 and very much ask the question as can it convince both original He-Man fans and also more general fans that this is indeed a viable show worthy of the franchise. Now, there may be spoilers for Part 1 going ahead into this overall breakdown, so just beware when you are watching this video. So when we talk about the end of Part 1, we had the conclusion where Teela, alongside the likes of Evelyn, had revived Adam back from Britannia, and they went back to Castle Grayskull in order to revive the Sword of Power, which had been broken in the opening episode itself. But unfortunately, a tragic event happened when Skeletor's seemingly evil spirit had emanated from Evelyn's staff to recapture the sword he had stabbed Adam, of course, fatally wounded it seemed, and Skeletor had gone on to manifest into a far more of a demigod being, I think generally known as Skelegod. So that was a supposed big massive cliffhanger that was intended to leave people very much on the edge of their seat, very much desperate to see what would happen in Part 2. Now, it didn't quite have that desired effect. Many people were claiming, why is Adam being killed again? He of course died in the opening episode as He-Man, only to revive him back and then kill him off again. So it didn't really make much sense. Now, the second trailer dropped recently for Part 2. And to be honest, when we look at it overall, it was very action heavy as we begin the initial fight back against Skeletor, or Skelegod as he's known, particularly from the toy line. The trailer itself started off with very much of a hokey narration from Skeletor outlining his overall plans. I did think Evelyn looked very cool as the newly anointed dark sorceress. She had a very stylish look, and overall I feel Evelyn was probably the best character from Part 1. We do later on get hints that Teela will finally embrace her destiny as the successor to the original sorceress, as per her destiny, as what we've seen from most other He-Man iterations. We have those earlier scenes where we see the blue insignia shining on her forehead, and then we have another shot where she's tapping very much into this almost like pool or lake of power. She relates to the fact that she's got to tap into the power, so this will likely result in her being very pivotal in helping revive back He-Man and the Sword of Power. Now, we do later on get some epic looking shots of King Randor leading the charge, and hopefully we will get a further explanation as to what exactly was King Randor doing post the events of He-Man losing the Sword of Power. Now, we do get a very weird scene, and probably the biggest talking point of this trailer, where Adam is somehow able to command the Grayskull power and transform without the sword itself. Now, he transforms into a being basically known as Savage He-Man. Now, I think this is a character that hasn't previously appeared in any other animated show, certainly not in the 1980s version or indeed the 2002 version. This is a character I believe was an extension of the toy line, and basically Savage He-Man is much more of a primal, rage-driven, almost like an Incredible Hulk incarnation of He-Man without the balance or compassion of the original character. Now, how exactly Adam is able to do this, I guess we'll find out when we watch the original show, but me personally, I don't really like the concept because I think it takes away from the special quality of He-Man ultimately needing the Sword of Power to transform. If Adam can transform into Savage Hulk and take on his enemies, if he's much more of a powerful entity, then why does he need the Sword of the Power in the first place? So again, I don't really like this idea, and to be honest, the way that the Part 1 has played out in terms of its overall ideas, this will probably be a one and done, or maybe even half an episode development, and after a short while, I guess Skeletor will eventually disarm him, or maybe he won't be able to retain to his power. Now the trailer does conclude with very much of a large scale battle, with He-Man we see revived back in his classic form, and we do presume that this will be near the end of the series, perhaps the last episode itself. Now admittedly, it was good to finally see more of the classic Masters characters, the likes of Buzz-Off, Stratos and Ram Man as well. They were very much sadly missing from the part 1 episodes. And we also see scenes of Randall later on clashing with much more of the ghost version of Skeletor, which is obviously a result, I believe, of him losing the original power during Skelegod, and this coincides of course with He-Man regaining the Sword of Power. And we get some more undeniably epic shots of He-Man clashing together with Skeletor, He-Man leaping in the air, leading all the charges, promising to protect the people, asking them to stand behind him. So yes, all of the visuals look very good, but to be honest, I'm a bit worried that the overall climax will just be an overlong battle full of lots of energy waves and explosions all popping up at the screen at the same time, but not really having much more of a semblance or real setup in terms of the overall battle. It was a bit similar as what we saw with the overall finale of Castlevania Season 4, if you remember. Now overall, this trailer was very deliberate to try and put He-Man in the final shot, to try and convince more fans that yes, this is very much of a He-Man story, and don't worry, He-Man won't be superseded by Teela, he's still in charge, he's still the main lead character. Now to be honest, I don't think you're really going to convince people of that. Everything that went on with the original part 1 in terms of the overall marketing as well, many people are going to feel that this trailer itself is yet again another bait and switch, as so often is the term used when surrounding this overall animated show, so they're not going to buy it a second time. So I've talked about this in previous videos about the issue of outrage trigger marketing, where you take these classic franchises, you make all of these changes in hope to provoke reaction, and hopefully those reactions will equate into sales or ratings. And I don't think that's going to be the case with this part 2 of Masters of the Universe Revelation, because anybody who watched it first time and they didn't like it won't really return for part 2 in many ways. So I don't think they're going to garner as much attention or ratings this time round, regardless of what Kevin Smith says on social media at all. I just think a lot of people have given up on the show. They don't feel it's true to the source material, and they've given up on it. So in terms of my own opinion, I think this trailer, it does promise very much of an epic battle, but I just fear it will have the same flaws in storytelling as what we saw in particular with part 1. And look, no doubt about it, the animation looks absolutely superb. All of the characters are drawn greatly. All of the action and the special effects, they really are on point. I would like to think that the final battle lasts more than maybe 10 or 15 minutes. That was a big issue with the part 1 part of this show, is that all of the epic parts that they showed us in the trailer happened in the first 10 minutes, and then after that it became much more of a Teela centric story. So that's my overall main concerns, but I'm still going to give this a shot. I think the show had potential, but like I said, there was more the issues of storytelling. And yes, as somebody who watched the original show back in the 80s, yes, it did annoy me, the fact that He-Man did get pushed to the side. You know, many people can argue against it, but he did get sidelined in favour of Teela being the lead character. I still feel it would have been far better had they had a couple of seasons where it's very much of a He-Man story, and of course Teela can still have an integral part because she was an integral character in both the 80s version and the 2002 version. But had they just started it off with a very much of a He-Man prominent story, and then by all means, if they wanted to do a Teela spin-off, they could have spun off and then had her lead the charge and do all sorts of multiple changes or bring new characters even to the story. So that's what I believe the mistake was made. But I just hope that this time around Kevin Smith won't make as much statements online and just allow the show to be judged on its own merit rather than the ongoing narrative and certainly the perceived drama going on around it, which is so often the case with entertainment these days. Those are my overall thoughts and feelings on the trailer for Masters of the Universe Revelation Part 2. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think this will be superior to Part 1? Do you think it is indeed a bait and switch and that Teela will be the primary lead character? Or are you excited to see He-Man in his classic form back again, leading the charges along with the more classic Masters characters? Let me know all of your thoughts. And as usual, when the show debuts on Netflix, I will do a premiere review, maybe just a quick impressions overall, and then I will do an overall season review of part 2 as well. So let me know what you think in the comments. Please also hit and like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, stay at safe distances, and I will see you very, very soon.